Something that a lot of small business owners fall in the trap of is trying to give away too much free information because they think that will allow them traction on social media or to compete with bigger brands that are often just giving a ton of free information away. Welcome back to the Locker Room Talk podcast. My name is Riley Beatty, a small business owner and host of this podcast. I'm joined by my co-host and your corporate executive insider, Stacey Miller. Together, we bring you the business resources and knowledge that have been traditionally held secret in the locker room of the good old boys club. Every single week, we invite you to break down the locker room door with us to chat about the development, marketing, sales, and operational knowledge you need to grow and scale your small business. Stacey, tell us what's on the game plan for today.
Okay, we've been focusing so far on development and marketing. We're going to keep going down the marketing path, and specifically, we're going to expand today on the top of the marketing funnel. We talked about the marketing funnel in our last couple of conversations. If you haven't listened, go back and check them out. But today we're going to be talking all about the top of funnel.
Before we jump into that, I have to ask you our question of the day for some small talk. When I think of tofu as a dietitian, the first thing I think about is food, not necessarily top of the funnel. So the question of today is, what is your favorite food?
I have always laughed so much at like the tofu acronym because it always makes me think of tofu. And I also think of it as like this building block, just like proteins are. So it makes me laugh extra hard. But my favorite food is not tofu. I do like tofu. Let's see. When we've talked about this before, my favorite food has been bread, and I still stand by bread. However, I think I've shifted. I'm really into apples right now. I know, it's like a whole curveball from bread.
I was so influenced by you because now a staple in the Beatty household is bread with olive oil. Charlie is obsessed. My dad is like, what 2-year-old is dipping bread in olive oil? I put the spices in there. I make it fancy. It is totally Stack influenced bread, and I'm obsessed with it.
I'm obsessed. When I used to work with you around nutrition, it was kind of during COVID times, and I was in the sourdough camp, just like a lot of people. So I was making fresh sourdough, and we would eat the whole loaf sometimes, my husband and I, with olive oil and balsamic, and you were always like, this shows up all the time in your food. I still stand by it. I love it.
Do you have a specific apple type that you like?
Oof. Okay. Right now I'm into Honeycrisp. I think that's an obvious choice, at least to me. However, we recently moved and there's an apple tree on our property and they're green apples, but I don't know what kind, and I'm determined to figure it out because they are so good, and it's made me start trying a lot of other apples.
I'm obsessed with this. We've talked before that you just moved in and you are going to be trying to grow a lot of your food. And I was wondering if you had an apple tree, but this confirms it.
Yes, I love them. So yeah, current favorite food, apples. What about you? What's your favorite food?
Well, my favorite food forever, and I don't know if it's going to change, is cupcakes.
I mean, obvious winner. How could I not have thought about cupcakes myself? Okay, but share more. I need to know, like, what kind. Is this all cupcakes? Is this a specific flavor set?
I love the vanilla cupcakes, like almost funfetti situation where you have a white icing and a sprinkle. That's the vibe.
Oh my God.
I'm a almost 35-year-old woman, and my favorite food is a cupcake, and I'm not ashamed.
You shouldn't be. And also, funfetti has locked in that favorite slot for so many people for so long. Like, that was always, if we got to make our birthday cake when I was growing up, funfetti was the frosting every time.
Carly also loves funfetti. She loves
cute.
Cupcakes because she loves sprinkles, but she just wants to eat the icing. So she'll like eat the icing. Like we get the little ones sometimes, like for her birthday or whatever. She just like will eat the icing and then go like more. And I'm like, whatever, like it's fine. So I'm glad that she shares my love of cupcakes.
I love this. I love this so much. I mean, neither of us answered tofu, but I'm still excited to talk about tofu in relation to marketing today.
Before we jump in, let's do a couple definitions and do a quick recap if people haven't listened to the last episode. So last couple of episodes, we got into the concept of the marketing funnel and that being a really big pillar of the marketing section of a small business. Can you give us kind of a quick recap on that?
Yes. Okay. Marketing funnel. When you're thinking about your marketing overall, you're trying to drive a certain behavior out of that marketing. And it's typically trying to drive people to buy whatever you're selling. In the corporate space, when we think about marketing, we think about it as this funnel that breaks into 3 phases. The first one is called top of funnel. The middle one is called middle of funnel. The bottom one is called bottom of funnel. And each of these has different actions that you should take from a marketing perspective to keep driving people through that funnel and ultimately convert to a paying customer of whatever your product or service is.
Amazing. Let's break this down for our small business listeners. A couple episodes ago, we talked about product market fit. That's a really important foundational piece in the development of your business. You gave a really great example of somebody selling bread at a market and the baker going and selling her product at the market. What would an example top of funnel be for this baker?
Oh my God, such a good question. If this baker is in modern times, but going to a farmer's market, because that's going to be easier to relate to our funnel, this would be if they put up a poster in the area that the farmer's market is. It's usually in some sort of town square area. If they had a poster that had a little bit of information about their bread and when to find them at the market. That is how I would think about top of funnel because it's general brand awareness. If somebody's walking through that area, walking their dog, walking to dinner with their friends, and they see that poster, it will make them realize, 1, there's a farmer's market. 2, I can buy this really good bread there. 3, here's the photo or some sort of information about the bread that makes you consider buying it. That's top of funnel, is just that general brand awareness.
Okay. So would you say social media is also top of funnel?
Yes. So I went straight to a poster, still trying to relate to that market space. However, today's world of brand awareness, especially for what's called a business to consumer purchasing flow, which is like if you're selling your product to the general public, 100% social media is a huge piece of your top of funnel marketing. When you think about more traditional marketing spaces, that might be things like that poster or a newspaper article or a billboard.
I love it. Our baker, though, could have a social media account.
Totally. And they should.
You should. We will talk about that probably ad nauseum, but social media is such a great brand awareness type of marketing. Okay, so we talked a little bit about our baker with their flyers up and then also their social media account. If you were working with that baker as a business consultant, what would you recommend they do and they don't with their top of funnel marketing materials?
Okay, such a good question. Let's start with the don'ts because it's really important to know what you should not be doing that's going to kind of inhibit your top of funnel from working correctly. So first and foremost, when you're thinking of your top of funnel, this is not the time to actively pitch or sell your product. Think about selling your product as a conversation, and the first thing you're saying is your top of funnel. And so the first thing you say shouldn't be, buy this thing from me. It should be context around what the thing is, why it matters, why you think it's important in the world. So don't come in and sell hard. This is not the space for that.
Ooh, this is such a good don't and something that I definitely made the mistake of, and I've talked about this on other episodes at the beginning of my business, because I remember making a social media account and getting pretty good traction on it. And then I'd be like, buy my product. And I was shocked that nobody signed up because I thought, oh, if I have this offer and I put it out into the world, that people will come and buy it because they need it and they might need it, but that's not the way that they find out that they need it.
Totally. It's so counterintuitive sometimes because you see the value of your product, but that's not what matters here. It's that the end user, the customer, sees the value of your product. And the way that they learn the value of your product is when you talk about it, generally, not selling it, but just are able to discuss it. What's in the bread? Why is the bread so good? Why should you support your local community and buy at the farmer's market? Those are the things you want to talk about, not like, this bread costs this price, show up here and buy it from me. That's so aggressive in the world.
So this was more about reaching and engaging with many individuals versus a one-on-one sales conversation.
That's right. When I think of top of funnel, I always think of it in this concept of engaging in the one-to-many space. We'll talk about mid-funnel and bottom of funnel in other episodes, but it kind of goes one to many, one to few, one to one. So this is your one to many, your broad reach. You're trying to reach as many people as possible. And so also in the don'ts of what not to do when you're thinking of top of funnel, don't be exclusive. This is a space that you want to share information in kind of freely. You want to make sure that you're talking to people at, again, that broad reach.
Many listeners right now might be thinking, okay, well, if I'm not going to sell my product, how am I going to actually sell my product or my offer? What would you have to say for those individuals listening who have that question?
I know I just said don't be exclusive, but the way that you should think about this is a pay gate. What will you give away for free versus what is gated behind a purchase? And so You can give information for free on social media. This is what people do all the time. But at some point, they need to pay to get better information, more in-depth information. So you definitely want to share information that leads somebody to want to purchase, essentially.
How do you decide which information to share and which information not to share?
This matters a little bit on what your business is overall. So maybe we can take an example. Maybe Riley, if you have an example from Steady State or from a customer or a client that you've worked with as well when you've done business coaching previously, or I'm happy to share one too. But it matters a little bit on like what your product is. If I were to keep going with that bread example, you put up your poster, you have your social media. Maybe on social media, you talk a little bit about the type of flour you like to use in your most popular loaf, but you don't publish the whole recipe. That's something that somebody would need to buy. But I don't know. Do you have an example from your work?
First off, I think that's a really good example right there. And I think it really transitions over to a lot of the work that I do in the dietetic space, or I see that other dietitians are doing, where you want to give a free sample. You want to give a piece, but you don't want to give away everything. And I think that this is really important because giving away a little bit of information to help somebody understand the value of the service that you're providing, but you're not giving them the entire roadmap.
I could not have said that better myself. 100%, we're always trying to convert information to value and credibility and why somebody wants to work with you.
I think oftentimes when you're providing a service, so that's obviously a little bit different than providing a tangible product, bread or some other type of craft item or something like that, you want to show them that they need your individualized help to help them accomplish that goal, where you give them a little free sample, but show them that they need your support and accountability to accomplish that goal. And when we look at, the work that we do at Steady State, we're giving tips all the time for people to get their periods back. But then when they want individualized help, they come to us so we can connect all the pieces.
Love that. It's definitely like a puzzle of tips and free samples that you're giving that's kind of hard to put together without that expertise, that credible expertise, which makes me want to transition to do's. One of the things you do want to do with your top of funnel, you're not selling your expertise, but you're showcasing your expertise, especially with so many small businesses being a service around your expertise. You're showcasing that in those spaces. I also like to give the comparison that this is kind of the getting to know you phase of your brand and of your product or service, kind of like a first date in a way. You want somebody to get to know you and get a feel for who you are and why your expertise matters.
Yes. I do want to say, I know we're in the do's, but related to this, I think something that a lot of small business owners fall in the trap of is trying to give away too much free information because they think that that will allow them traction on social media, or that will allow them to compete with bigger brands that are often just giving a ton of free information away. And this can make it really hard then to sell your offer or your product.
Yeah, such a good point. And this is why you can see right away in the marketing funnel, there's so much nuance. Like there are do's and don'ts. You do want to engage on the one-to-many. You don't want to sell hard in this moment. You do want to share your expertise. You don't want to overshare your expertise, which is why this is just one piece of the overall funnel. There's so many components that build from the top of funnel to the middle to the bottom. And one thing I will say about the top of funnel that helps you build towards those next steps of somebody engaging and ultimately buying your product or service is that you do want to collect their information along the way. This can be on social media, them simply following your account, DMing you. That's a great sign of engagement. Maybe even them signing up for like a newsletter, which moves into middle of funnel, so we won't focus too much there. But collect information back from the person engaging with you.
Yes, so important. And that's why we're also going to talk about different ways to collect that data in future episodes, because especially with social media or maybe putting up a sign, you're not always gathering information. Somebody takes down that flyer or your Instagram account gets deleted. You've lost all of your leads from your top of your funnel.
That's so true. Oh my gosh, I could go in a whole other direction with this about the data you're collecting as you have folks engage, but we should absolutely talk about that in another episode because it is important that you're storing that data somewhere other than just your Instagram profile or your TikTok profile. Like you want to make sure that you're figuring out how to collect that info.
So before we sign off for today, I have one last question. And the question is, how do we know if the top of the funnel is working?
Such a good question. This comes back to metrics. And we've talked a little bit about metrics on other episodes. We definitely will spend more time talking about metrics, and you can kind of engage with our content, our newsletter, to learn more about this too. However, this is those traditional metrics that probably folks are familiar with if you've messed around with social at all. So on social, it's things like followers and likes. Again, we've said before, follows and likes don't equal dollars, and that's why the rest of the funnels matters so much. But for top of funnel, those metrics do matter. So follows, likes, and those engagements where you can collect info in some way. Those are kind of the main ways that you would probably track. Also, if you have a website or any other base where you can track clicks or engagement in any way, like those type of metrics matter here. I don't know, Riley, do you have other examples that you've seen too?
No, I just want to reiterate the importance of collecting data and metrics, because sometimes we think we're doing something and then the data is different, and data never lies.
I'll also say that when you collect data, it helps you base decision making off of the data instead of your emotional reaction to things going on in your business, which as a small business owner is such a relief, at least from what I've seen in the businesses I've worked with in consulting, to be able to look at data and objectively state this is going well or this isn't going well instead of this like gut feel. Trust your gut, but use data too.
Yes, it's a healthy combination of the two.
Totally.
All right. Any other last things that you have to say related to top of funnel for today's episode?
I think we've covered a lot of it. I can't wait to hear feedback on how folks are thinking about top of funnel. But yeah, in the meantime, go try it out.
Hello and welcome back to the end of the episode for Riley's Recap. You'll see me at the end of every single episode recapping main takeaways from each episode. As a fellow small business owner and entrepreneur, I understand how hard it can be and overwhelming it can be to get all of this information at once. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and I want to make sure that you're taking away the same main points from each episode that I am. For this episode, I want to make sure that you're taking away 3 really important things. The first thing is top of the funnel is super important for awareness in your business. This is going to be your broad outreach, and the goal of the top of the funnel is awareness, not selling. You want to introduce people to your brand and get them aware of the products that your business offers. But again, this is not about selling. This was a huge mistake that I made in the past, and I see fellow small business owners make today. Along with that awareness, you want to make sure that you're providing value. But you want to make sure that you don't give too much information away for free. So many small business owners get stuck in the race to the bottom where they're trying to keep up with big accounts, big businesses, and big organizations by giving all of this free information away. If you give too much free information away, nobody is ever going to purchase your product or your service. Along with ensuring that your top of funnel is providing general brand awareness, you want to make sure that your top of funnel is working by ensuring that you're collecting metrics and data. As soon as I started collecting data in my business, it really skyrocketed our results and allowed us to fine-tune each of those sections within the marketing funnel. In this episode, you learned a lot about the top of the funnel, or TOFU, and in our next couple of episodes, you're going to learn more about MOFU, which is middle of the funnel, and then also BOFU, which is the bottom of the funnel. To learn more about the marketing funnel in general, make sure that you subscribe to our free newsletter that goes out every single week. Stacey does an amazing job of writing these, and they go hand in hand with our podcast episodes. Within the newsletter, you are going to get little exercises and prompts to help you build out all of the things that we're talking about every single week.